While Scarlet Rot becomes everyone's favorite, I was having fun playing with poison. Yes, you heard me right, it is fun playing with poison. So poison is one of the status effects, works the same way as Scarlet Rot, but it's just the less good version. Looking at Wiki, there aren't a lot of poison sources and most of them aren't even that good, in my opinion of course. So, you know what, let's see if I can beat Elden Ring with these poison armaments. Here are the rules. So the first one, I'm only allowed to use certain weapons, Ash of War, spells or any consumables or other sources that can inflict poison. And as usual, one source can only be used for one boss. For example, if I beat Margit with poison pots, I'm not allowed to use poison pots again for Godrick and so on. But I'll give the exceptions. Same sources are allowed for side bosses and material gathering. Compared to the Frostbite run I did previously, this is the first time ever I have to rely on using consumables and throwables most of the time. Well, this is gonna be interesting, I guess. Also, before we start, consider subscribing to this channel if you like this kind of content. And yeah, let's get started. So I was a bit confused with the build in this run because I know poison scales with arcane, but it's really not that effective in terms of overtime damage. I also need strength and dex for some weapons in the future, so yeah, fuck it. I pick Prophet because he has arcane and enough fate for incantations. Well, I hope I'm right though. After I jump off from the wrong cliff and have to restart from the church again, I finally reach Limgrave. Because I'm supposed to use bad weapons for early bosses, I got crafting kit from Calais and get as many crackpots as I can. At the same time, I acquired all the cookbooks that are necessary for the poison pots, arrows and other things. I did a lot of preparation and decided to get every accessible armaments before going for the boss. Tough locations like Abandoned Cave is pretty annoying, but thankfully I got both the serpent bow and venomous fang. Also changed my armor to knight armor from the round table hold because it has better protection. Now while exploring Caelid, I grind some runes and get the Radahn sword seal because I'm not confident enough to continue the journey without it. Poison Bloom is necessary as well for this run since all the craftable items require this specific flower. And yeah, I was planning on increasing Arcane to at least to reach 31 so it has higher scaling on the build up. But well, I don't know if it's gonna impact me in any way, but we'll see. So my plan is to take down Margit using poison pots. The build up is pretty decent, but because bosses has quite some resistance to status effects, obviously 9 pots is not gonna be enough. Like, come on, let's be real. I cannot get more pots since the rest of them are locked behind story progression, so I have to find a different way. Poison Mist. Only requires 12 faith and I'm gonna use this one against Morgott. Yeah, so I can save poison pots for another boss if I have to. I don't know man, I think this one is a better option compared to poison pots. Luckily for me, I have Finger Seal as my starting weapon, so I don't really have to spend another minute looking for a seal. Honestly, this spell works exactly like Freezing Mist. I don't like it. But it's capable to beat Margit in my opinion, so I think it's a better option compared to Poison Pot. At the early fight, it's much easier to trigger the proc and the only thing I need to do is dodge every incoming attacks until the poison effects wore off. The resistance will keep increasing after the cooldown, so I have to cast more in order to poison him. Poison effects is really slow, and speaking about it, there are two kinds of poisons. Regular poison and deadly poison. This one is regular poison, so it will take longer to trigger, but the effect will take longer than deadly poison. I have my flask ready to replenish my FP, so I'm confident this will definitely work. I'm joking, I'm not confident, but I know it's gonna work. The mist stays for quite some time, so I just have to synchronize his timing so he will get hit by the mist. And after 15 minutes and a couple deaths, Margit is now defeated. Hooray! The fight is more difficult than expected, so I decided to get more things like Smithing Stone Bell Bearing and Bone Peddler Bell Bearing. Yeah, the one from the Bell Bearing Hunter, by the way. It's quite a hard fight if I didn't have the bow. So yeah, I can craft poison darts. Going against Godrick, I'm using poison darts to see if it's working. The downside with using throwables, I can only bring 40 darts to the battlefield, so I don't think it's enough to trigger the poison all the way through, especially against main bosses. So I kinda need to level up my arcane and getting Marika's Seal talisman to boost my arcane by 3 points. With this, I can reach level 31 for arcane, so it now has higher scaling points than before. Also, since I use poison mist for Margit, I'm allowed to use poison pots again combined with poison darts. The build up is slower over time, so for early encounter, I have to use all the darts before switching them with poison pots. Combining Radahn Seal and Marika's Seal is actually a bad idea since they increase the damage taken to me, but there is one solution for this problem: by not getting hit. Exactly, easier said than done, of course. Godrick doesn't really bothers me in any way, so I think I can keep up with his pattern most of the time. Maybe I was hesitate whenever he used this flame breath. I cannot seem to find a way to dodge it other than running as far as I can, but that moves usually hit me with certain range. So everything was going well until I ran out of both items, and my last couple pots weren't enough to trigger the poison. And you know what? I decided to add one more rule, which is I'm allowed to attack the bosses with bare hands, so basically no weapons. This actually took a very long time. But I did it. To progress even further, I want to maximize the poison build if possible, but in order to do so, I have to do some steps beforehand. I got Cross Naginata as my host weapon, and I use poison grease to coat the weapons with poison affinity. Probably my least favorite method, but poison has limited options, so I don't think I have that many choices. Since I'm going with Loretta and she is immune to every status effects, this is the option for her, technically. I know I'm relying on physical damage, but I still have to enforce my rules by only attacking her when my weapon is coated by the poison. At this point, I had fought Loretta for more than 5 times in total, but for some reason, I kinda feel difficult this time. I mean, Loretta has those movesets that I already memorized before, so maybe the problem is on me. I think that's the key of Souls games: whenever you stop playing it, you're getting worse over time. But even if it's hard, I still beat her. Not the best fight, but it's still satisfying. Now I have access to Ranni and played her quest for a bit. I also joined the Volcano Manor and did 2 of their missions. It's required so I can get the Serpent Bone Blade as a reward. Because I have to fight Radahn for the next boss, I'm using poison bolts with pulley crossbow. I can get another crossbow if I was too lazy to go to Mountain Gumnir, but pulley crossbow has high fire rate and I'm kinda interested to try it as well, because I never used this kind of crossbow before. Honestly, I hate Mountain Gumnir as a location because I don't know, man. The vibe in here is just not very nice. Everyone is not vibing here. I hate it.
Hello, motherfucker.
While I'm here, I also got the coil shield from Volcano Cave while being surrounded by the demi-humans. I realized my stats are all over the place and I'm having trouble to level up, so I did various quests as well and reached Morgott Palace to get some runes. So it's time to fight Radahn. I got the Arrow Sting Talisman outside the Red Man's castle to add more damage to my crossbows. It's necessary to do so rather than fully relying on poison buildup. But honestly, I still rely on the status effects compared to the damage itself. I could get Arrow's Witch Talisman before, but apparently range wasn't a problem in the battlefield. His openings are pretty wide, and the crossbow doesn't have a painful recovery time. This is somehow working. I don't want to keep shooting before the effects cool down because having 99 bolts is barely enough to take him down. I feel like for early game bosses, I have to keep using the stalling method, and it sure takes a lot of time. So I just have to keep running around and dodge every attack possible. After a couple minutes, I finally reached his second phase. I mean, there isn't any difference, it's just he's gonna be using more gravity magics than before. Most of them are dodgeable, so I'm not really concerned about it. I guess I was right. I ran out of bolts. It's because I missed a couple shots a while ago, but luckily for me, the build-up is still going, and Radahn is finally dead by the poison, so big W for me. With all of that, I can progress to Ranni's quest, but before doing so, I got the Kindred of Wrath Exaltation by defeating these two annoying passes. Alright, so continue with Ranni's quest. Got the Finger Slayer Blade, go to Rena's Rise, and we're here. So basically the quest ends here because I don't need to progress more to reach the Lake of Rot. I just want to get the Mushroom Crown. Come on man, look at that. Went back from Lake of Rot and I'm farming some gold thing excrement, which is basically a golden poop. Before you ask, yes, this thing is valuable in order to craft the fetid pots. If I can shoot gold, I could be rich by now. Also, I forgot to get one more weapon when I was in Nokron, so I went back to get the Endplate Skull. Alright, facing Draconic Tree Sentinel. This might work similar as Margit before. I was using fetid pots, but it has a couple downsides. So fetid pots will inflict deadly poison, which has higher overtime damage but shorter duration. Looking at the result, 10 pots were not enough, obviously. Just like Godrick, I think I have to use 2 armaments in this fight as well. There is this throwable items called Poison Stone Clump, which I can bring 20 of them. And I'm using them before going with fetid pots. Is it pronounced fetid pots or something else? I don't know man, correct me if I'm wrong guys. So how exactly can I beat the Tree Sentinel with these items? I don't think I have any other choice than the hit and run method I think. Let the poison consume him and we'll come back once he back to his original spot. This is the method I used back then when I was having trouble fighting the Tree Sentinel. It actually took forever waiting for the cooldown, but it's the best I can do for now. He becomes more challenging after some procs because of the higher resistance to poison. That's when I'm using fetid pots. The good thing about this fight is the boss counted as field bosses in the open world, so another luck for me, I still have some poison blooms left and I can craft them in the middle of the fight. Yeah, finally he got killed when I was going to the gate. So, going against Godfrey then. And the weapon of choice is Venomous Fang. Godfrey has the same condition as Loretta. He is immune to status effects except for sleep. Like, what? But that's okay though, because I tried using Fist weapons before, so it won't be a problem. Fist has the shortest range out of every weapons and the moveset isn't my favorite either. But the attack speed is quite respectable, so that's why I can still land a couple hits in a narrow window. I feel like I'm a bit greedy in this fight and therefore Godfrey landed some hits on me. But yeah, the fight was okay, it didn't take a lot of time compared to all the previous fights, so yeah, let's move on. Before going against Morgott, there are a bunch of stuffs I need to get just for the precautions of future encounters. The first thing I got is the Dragon Crest Talisman, to decrease physical damage taken on me. It's located below the Bestial Sanctum, so it's pretty easy to get if I can get down safely. Second thing is Warrior Shard Talisman. I know. I'll get blamed again for killing Alexander, but yeah, on my next run I promise I'm not gonna kill him, okay? Third item is Green Turtle Talisman, because as usual, I have lack of attention when it comes to stamina, so I need something to help me with that. And the last thing is Carrion Filgrid Crest, which I can get from EG. It will compensate the amount of FP used for weapon skills, so yeah, I might need it later on. For Morgott, I'm using Coil Shield as my weapon. It has a unique skill which is Viper Bite, that can inflict deadly poison. I combined it with Warrior Shard and Carrion Filgrid Crest, so it won't consume too much FP while I can still maximize the amount of poison and physical damage. Well, I forgot to mention, but I still have my Kindred of Wrath Exaltation in my equipment as well, so I'm using that as well. Well, okay, to be honest, it's more difficult than I thought. Coil's shield is as slow as I expected, and I was a bit off with his opening. Apparently, I have to find different openings in this case. As much as I want to use stalling method, it's not really that effective against Morgott. He has far more resistance than other previous bosses. One advantage for me that I didn't realize, Coil's shield has quite a long range attack. The snake bite is slow, but it can reach some distance surprisingly. I was having a hard time on his first phase because some of his attacks are very dodgeable. This happened because Coil's shield doesn't have a decent recovery time, so I feel like my timing was always off. But I reached his second phase and thank God it's far more chill. As usual, only 2 safe openings when I can land a single hit without getting punished afterwards. And at this point, I'll just have to save some time and wait for him to attack. I still have to be careful with the eruption thingy because I got hit by it once. I never got hit with those things before, so I'm a little embarrassed. Morgott is done, and jumping to the endgame bosses. It's safe for me to say I'm bringing out the good stuff on the table, but first I need to get the rest of them by killing this Knight Cavalry, for example. And killing this Teardrop Scarab as well. For Fire Giant, I'm using Poison Moth Flight with Roger's Rapier as the host weapon. I picked this weapon because, well, I couldn't think any of it at the moment, so I was like, well, okay, I think that's enough to take Fire Giant probably. I stepped my foot on the mountaintops of the giants, getting some bell bearings because they're very important to upgrade weapons, and finally facing the giant himself. I think I was too underestimated him. I died a couple times because of the fire. I was about to equip the Flame Drake Talisman, but during further observation, I was just being greedy apparently. So I keep my Dragon Crest Talisman and go for it again. I mean, the weapon is pretty decent though. Well, I think I cannot say it's decent, but Fire Giant is slow anyway, so with a lot of patience, it's completely doable. Poison Moth Flight is pretty slow, but it doesn't really matter anyway, because I don't really have enough time to feel the build-up bar on the Fire Giant. Actually, you know what? I was wrong. I did poison him once on his first phase. Second phase, it's as tedious as ever. I pick the safe spot between his crotch and just cast the skill whenever I can. It's almost nothing crazy until he pulled the 360 Fire Breath and almost hit me. Almost though. Apparently during attacking his leg, I got a bit extra damage a couple times. I thought this weapon has bleed or something, but after checking it on wiki, it doesn't really have any passive effects. So yeah, let me know guys if I missed something. At the end, I took him down, and that's the end of the last Fire Giant in the planet. I did the act of Cardinal Sin by burning the Erdtree alongside with Melina, and finally reached the Furu Mazula. Now, this is actually the first time I feel very excited fighting Godskin Duo. I'm using Serpent Bow with Serpent Arrows, so yeah, it's gonna be a semi-stalling method, I would say. I also bring a bunch of regular poison arrows just in case I ran out of Serpent Arrows. With Godskin Duo, I have to focus on killing the fat one while trying to separate my attention with the skinny one, because they both can throw the Black Flame and sometimes I didn't catch that. So the tough moment is when they enter the second phase and I have to make use of the pillars efficiently. If it works well, I can stand on the pillar and keep shooting the fat one while he is rolling. Apparently the skinny one will not do anything when the fat one is rolling. He basically gives all the moment for him. I don't really have to attack the skinny one if I don't want to, because he can dodge the arrows most of the time, so yeah, it's not really worth it. But just in case I can land a couple arrows to inflict poison, I'll just have to stall him until he summons the other guy. The fight was quite long and I have to fully concentrate and keep clenching my butthole until I beat those guys. And for the third time ever, I beat Godskin Duo without summons and without sleep pots. I'm very proud of this. Please give it a clap in the chat, guys. I went back to Liurnia to get the wing sword insignia because I'm gonna be using serpent bone blade against Malekith. Just want to make sure I use this weapon the right way. So, Serpent Bone Blade doesn't have unique skill, but it has 66 poison buildup. After dying by a random beastman, I reach Malekith's arena with courage and purpose. The courage to beat Malekith with my favorite weapon class, and the purpose to beat Elden Ring that day because I already procrastinated long enough. So, the first one to Malekith, I got humbled by him at the very end, but that's also a reminder for me to not get greedy. I remember saying the first phase of Malekith is the hardest part, but since I'm using katana right now, I can overcome it pretty quickly. 1 or 2 hit max every opening. The build up is quite fast and he got poisoned once. Second phase is much easier. I said it before, his safe openings is when he does these all slicing attacks. So this Serpent Bone Blade has this Ash of War called Double Slash. It's actually the same moveset with River of Blood but without the blood. The moveset is fast and whenever Malekith's showing its opening, I'm able to land 4 hits maximum at the moment. This makes the Wing Sword insignia really effective and also successfully inflict poison again. Even though it won't last long, but the damage taken over time is quite significant. And so, I beat Malekith. Okay, so this will be the hardest part of the run. Sir Gideon Ofnir. I'm dead serious by the way, not even joking. There are a few items left and I used the End Skull Plate to fight him. It's a great shield with slow attacks. But it has 90 poison build up, which is a lot. But that's not the only thing I use. Because Gideon uses full magic attacks, I have to prepare and tank his attacks most of the time. I went to Celia Town of Sorcery and complete their puzzle to get the Spelldrake Talisman. This will negate magic damage by 17% because it's a +1 version. I also dive deep again to Mohgwyn Palace to get the Helic Drake Talisman to protect me from holy damage. Because Gideon really liked to play with those rings. I bet he got some on his P. Another thing is Crimson Hole Crystal Tear. This usually works for Elden Beast, but it's also useful for Gideon as well. With everything I have right now, I will slay that all-knowing pussy to the ground. Shit, maybe next time. Apparently I forgot to upgrade the shield. Alright, this time I'll make sure I kill him. Okay, maybe it's a hard fight. So what I have to do is hit him slowly. I think 2 hits maximum before he does the Glintblade Phalanx or the Black Flame. If I want to look for a satisfying opening, it's when he casted Comet Azure. But I have to get close to him or he already able to move. One thing I hate so much is he can't heal, and do you know how hard it is to reach half of his health? So after cutting half of his health, I drink the Crystal Tear and going Rampage. But I cannot go too reckless because it only lasts for 15 seconds and some of his attacks can still break my poise, so it's kinda annoying. On the other hand, I can still rely on the poison effect to consume his health slowly because he has low resistance to status effects compared to other bosses. Keep the pressure on him once he get cornered and I finally beat him. Not the longest fight in this run, but I kinda feel it was. Moving to my favorite boss of all time. I pick a great sword from Caelid and infuse it with an Ash of War called Poisonous Mist. It's different with Poison Mist, the incantations, but they work similar. I'm actually surprised this weapon is compatible with Poisonous Mist, but here we are. So by far this is the sloppiest fight I had with Godfrey. That sounds kinda sus, but what I mean is I got hit a lot on his first phase because I didn't follow his usual pattern and I was testing if I can land a hit on different openings. So Poisonous Mist is a better version of Poison Mothfly. It can create a mist that will inflict poison buildup, and it also coated the weapon with poison affinity, so I can just attack him regularly as long as the effect's still there. The coated poison actually cooled down pretty fast, so I still have to cast the skill pretty often. Moving on to his second phase. Now it's a bit more difficult, because there is only a small window to cast the skill, and usually when I have to attack him, the poison enhancement already disappeared. I cast the skill whenever I had the chance, so I was able to attack him normally. Completely different strats compared to the first phase. One lucky moment I was able to cast the skill in the middle of his attack. I didn't dodge the next hit, but I was able to successfully cast that one. So yeah, Godfrey is down, first try as well, surprisingly. Alright, one last run and also one last equipment on my arsenal, Poison Armaments. It works the same as Poison Grease, but it's an incantation instead. I got that one in Caelid, by the way. Also, for the weapon horse, I choose Nagakiba because why not? It's a katana. I'll pick my favorite weapon if I get the chance. To extend the spell duration, I got the Elden Lord talisman as well. It will extend the duration by 30%, which is quite a lot. So the first round, it wasn't bad at all. I didn't know how long the poison effect's gonna stay on my weapon, but maybe after a couple hits, I tend to cast the incantation if possible. Still though, I never beat Radahn first try, always made an oopsie along the way, so here it is. It's best for me to cast the spell before I get inside, so it will save some couple seconds to attack him. As always, he allows you to hit a couple times in the beginning before he does something nasty. Might be my first time saying this, but I think Radahn fight is super fun. I know back then, I almost went crazy when fighting him, but you know, my interests grow eventually and I finally can enjoy the fight. After a couple hits, I successfully inflicted poison on him. He has the highest resistance to status effects except fire. Because Nagakiba is pretty fast and it doesn't have any recovery time, I was able to land multiple hits on certain occasions, and therefore Radahn is defeated. The fight with Elden Beast is just okay, I guess. It's always like that, but this time I realized my damage output was smaller than usual. Maybe that's because I didn't upgrade my weapon to plus 25. Also, since Elden Beast is immune to every status effects, we don't have to talk about poison anymore. Even though I still cast the spell whenever it ran out. Just to be clear, I still follow the rules though. One moment I almost died, but Elden Beast actually left a single health and technically saying, I got one more chance for pussies like you, so you get your ass up and give the ass beating you promised. Of course I have to use the crystal tier because without it I probably get killed by the Elden Stars. So it's just one essential thing for Elden Beast. It took me a couple minutes, but not that long, so I finally beat the Elden Beast. It's surely one hell of a run, but compared to the Frostbite run before, I think this one is different, kind of painful. I mean, it's not a painful run, actually, I kinda enjoy it in some way. But it has less options compared to the Frostbite one, so I was a little worried at the beginning. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this, and don't forget to leave a like if you like it. As always, thanks for watching and keep yourself hydrated. Goodbye.